belongs to the master. But let's look at what it says here in verse 5.
And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master and my wife and my children, I will not go out free.
Then he says, now, if this slave comes to the master and say, you know what, I love my master treats me well, I love my wife and my children that the master has made way for me to receive, then he says, I don't want to go out free. What was the stipulation of verse 6?
Then his master shall bring him unto the judges. He shall also bring him to the door and to the doorpost, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and shall serve him forever.
See, now, you see here that the only time slaves served forever if they did it voluntarily. And this is why, young men, your grandmas and your grandpas never wanted you to get earrings in your ear. Because an earring in your ear means that you were somebody's slave. Okay? That's why they never wanted you to do that. Because they know what that represented. Now, it's key for you to realize here that when you see slavery in the Bible, this was more so like an employee. They wasn't getting whipped. They wasn't getting their wives raped and children sold off. This was somebody who didn't own land, who didn't own a business, who had a debt to somebody, and that debt was paid off by servitude. But we see here clearly in verse 1 that after 6 years, verse 2, in Exodus 21, first chapter, that they had to let them go free. So these people who enslaved our people were really following the Bible, why didn't they let us go in 6 years? Now, I have one more point for you in this. Go with me to John the 13th chapter. Because once Christ was talking to them that day, he went one step further and issued another commandment, which will make it apparent to the entire world who his disciples were. Okay? Now let's look here in John the 13th chapter. We're going to start here at verse 34. Because Christ knew that they needed some internal change, but they also was going to need a change of a light that the world could know who they were. All right, read verse 34.
34 says, A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as I have loved you, and ye also love one another. Okay,
so Christ says, I give you a new commandment. To love one another as I have loved you. Now read verse 35.
By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have loved one another.
Wow. So Christ, this is in red. Christ states that the way we will know, the world will know that you are followers of Christ and followers of the Bible, that you love people the way he loves us. So my question for you today is, if the leaders and the citizens of this country were followers of Christ, how in the world, in Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 3 of the United States Constitution, we were labeled as 3/5 of a man? Why were we considered to be property, even Stevens, with cattle and horses? Right? If they were followers of Christ, how is it that after the Civil War and the so-called 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment was passed, that Jim Crow and segregation was able to terrorize our people? If they were followers of Christ. If they were followers of Christ, why was the cross, which was supposed to be a symbolic image to Christ dying on the cross for his sins, why was that used to terrorize people? Put them in people's houses and set them on fire to terrorize them. If these people was followers of Christ, why was our churches getting burnt down to the ground? That don't sound like Christ to me. But this is something very key. Get this other link. I need you to put into the box so they can do the research is. See, what we need to realize is that the leaders and the peoples of this country are determined to have white people and black people against each other. So they keep out very key information. Number one, during the First and the Second Great Awakening, which was an evangelical movement that took place in America during the late 1700s and the early 1800s, all the way up into the 1830s and 40s, many of the slave owners who had slaves, when they heard the truth of the Bible and Christ and how he felt about it, they let their slaves go. You'll be able to check this out in this link that we're going to put in here on your own. You can do this research on your own time, and you can see that the truth of the matter was, this wasn't a white and black thing. This was a Satan thing. Many of the initial abolitionists that were fighting for the freedom of slaves and bombarding the government to treat us better were former slave owners. They will never tell you that because they want you to think that the white man is your enemy when he's not. Many of them, most of them, are followers of Christ. But they won't want you to know that because they want you to see Serge Bourgeois as your enemy. They want you to see the cross as your enemy. They want you to see the Bible as your enemy for you to believe that it has nothing to do with you. But that's not the truth. That is so far from the truth. All right? Another thing what you need to realize is that many of our Caucasian brothers and sisters was awakened during the Civil War time because when the South seceded from the North, the South passed a law saying that if you had 10 or more slaves, you was exempt from fighting. So mostly, all the people that was going off to fight in the war were poor whites. And they began to wake up and say, whoa, it seems like this whole institution of slavery, this whole Southern heritage that we're fighting for has nothing to do with us because we're not benefiting from it. We're the ones dying for it. We don't have any land. We don't have any slaves. I don't have any problem with people of color. But I'm out here fighting for a right for certain people to benefit from it. They will never tell you that. Because they want you to take these people in this country to believe that, number one, that the Bible is wrong, it has nothing to do with you. And secondly, they want you to believe that the white man is your enemy when he is not. Satan has used everybody in this thing to keep us away from the truth. They put pastors up in these churches who tell you lies and tell you things that have nothing to do with the Word of God. And so when you begin to find out about it, when you see generation after generation never getting saved and never turning around, you begin to say, oh, this don't got nothing to do with me. I don't want no parts of this. But that's not the truth. All right? Now, my third point for you today is let me propose a question to you. What do you believe is the oldest nation that considers themselves to be Christians? What is the oldest nation in the world that you believe that is followers of Christ and made Christianity as their first religion? Now, many of you, I'm sure, you would think, hey, because of the way things look today, you would probably think maybe England, maybe Italy because of Rome, the Roman Catholic Church, maybe some country in the continent of Europe. No. Guess what? It is Ethiopia. Brother, could you put that link in there? You can go research that yourself. And you can see as early as the 1st century AD, before the word ever got to any European nation, Ethiopia had already declared themselves a Christian nation. Now, you're going to say to yourself, that's just probably some website, Wikipedia, anybody could write that. Well, I'm pretty sure you probably would feel that. But let me give you a Bible precept to actually back up that claim. Go with me to Acts the 8th chapter. I need you to see here, brothers and sisters, that you didn't find out about Christ. People of color didn't find out about Christ in America. We already knew him long before we got here. Okay? Acts the 8th chapter. And we're going to look at verses 26 through 39. I need you to see this. I need you to go through your Bible. Make sure you got your Bibles with you. Because I don't want you to go on my opinion. I want you to write all these things down. If you're coming on with us right now, make sure you go back and check the information that we put in here. Share this to your friends. Share this to your loved ones, single parents. Make sure you get this to your teens and your nieces and nephews. They need to realize that their identity is in Christ and not in something that's color of their skin. Most High never called us black. He never called us African American. Why are we going to belong to a whole continent? There's hundreds of countries in Africa. They know where we came from. But we're not going to put the cart before the horse. We'll get to that in the weeks to come. So are you there in Acts the 8th chapter? Let's start with verse 26, Rick.
26 says, And the angel of the Lord spake unto Philip, saying, Arise, and go toward the south unto the way that goeth down from Jerusalem unto Gaza, which is a desert.
Okay, so we can see here Philip. If you go back in the early parts of the Acts, early chapters of Acts, you'll see that when the apostles, the church began to grow, and it began to expand, and more and more people needed to be served, they began to anoint deacons to go out and do the work. Now we see here that Philip is, if you go back and look in Acts, in the early chapters in Acts, Philip was one of those original deacons. Now we know how the deacons look in some of our churches today. I give glory to my dad today, who's Deacon Ingram. There's a great deacon and servant in this community. But we also know that there's some deacons that they're doing some other things, and this is not what the original intent for deacons were. They were out teaching the truth as well as everyone else. Now let's look at verse 27.
And he arose and went, and behold, a man Ethiopian, and Enoch, of great authority under Candace, queen of Ethiopians, who had charged all of her treasure, and had come to Jerusalem to worship.
Wow. So we see here in Acts the 8th chapter, verse 27, that an Ethiopian eunuch was coming to Jerusalem to worship. To worship. Now you're going to ask yourself, how in the world was an Ethiopian coming to Jerusalem to worship? Well, the precept for that, we're not going to go into that for a second time. We're not going to go into that. But if you go into 1 Kings, the 10th chapter, the first 13 verses of 1 Kings, the 10th chapter, you will see